So look, let's just get straight into the meat of this general hospital mess, because I am losing my mind over the absolute stupidity of these characters right now. Seriously. Lulu taking Rocco to the hospital in secret to see Isaiah. It's giving desperate, and it's giving, well, terrible parenting, TBH. We got to unpack this from the jump. Rocco has an infected hand, and not just like, oh, I scraped it playing ball. No, this kid's hand is probably throbbing red, hot to the touch, maybe streaking up his arm. You know how fast staph or strep bacteria can move if it gets into a deep wound? Fast. And where did this wound come from? Over a week ago, this kid was holding a piece and he shot Cullum. Wait, let me process that. A kid, a gun, shooting someone and getting injured in the process. Maybe the slide bit his hand, maybe the recoil snapped his wrist and he tore his skin up, falling backward, IDK. But the point is, he's been sitting on this injury for over a week. Lulu, what are you doing, girl? She's not a doctor, she's not a nurse, she's watching her son's hand basically turn into a biohazard, and she's trying to play Florence Nightingale with some Neosporin and a prayer? Nah, that's wild. But the psychology here is fascinating, right? When a parent is faced with the reality that their kid committed a felony, the brain does this weird protective compartmentalization. She can't take him to the ER normally because they ask questions. They have to fill out forms. In New York State, and most places medical professionals are mandated reporters, you roll up with a wound that looks suspiciously like it's tied to violence, and the cops are getting called, period. That's just facts. So Lulu, in her panicked, sleep-deprived, stressed-out mind, thinks, I know a guy. She calls Isaiah. She wants a private appointment off the books. Now let's talk about Isaiah for a second. He's a medical professional. He took an oath. Do no harm, right? But also, he's getting dragged into this family drama. Lulu brings Rocco in, and Isaiah treats the wound. He cleans it out, probably has to prescribe some heavy-duty antibiotics, Bactrim or clindamycin or whatever, because if it's been a week, that infection is setting in deep. Maybe even into the bone if they're unlucky. Osteomyelitis is no joke, y'all. But Isaiah, he's looking at this wound. He's not stupid. He knows what a trauma wound looks like. He knows what gunpowder residue or a slide bite from a semi-automatic looks like. And he's asking Lulu, hey, what happened? And Lulu, she fumbles the bag. She completely fumbles it. She gives the most half-baked, sketchy, weak explanation ever. Oh, he tripped, or he caught it in a door. Isaiah's just staring at her like, but he doesn't push. Why? Maybe he doesn't want to know. Plausible deniability. In the medical field, sometimes if you don't ask the follow-up question, you don't have to put it in the chart, but it's sus, totally sus. He treats the kid and sends them on their way. But then this is where the whole thing just falls off a cliff into absolute chaos. They leave the hospital and they are on the highway, and suddenly there's a traffic camera and it catches the car, but it ain't Lulu behind the wheel. It is Rocco. Bro, what? Rocco is underage. He does not have a license. He shouldn't even be operating a lawnmower right now with an infected, newly bandaged hand, let alone steering a 2-ton death machine on a public highway. Why is he driving? Let's analyze this, because it makes no sense unless you look at Lulu's mental state. Is Lulu just completely tapped out? Like, did the adrenaline of sneaking her kid into the hospital finally crash and she just passed out in the passenger seat? Maybe she took something for her own nerves. Or maybe Rocco saw how much of a wreck his mum was and he just took the keys. I got this, mum. Kids in high trauma situations often parentify themselves. They step up when the adult breaks down. Rocco probably thought he was doing her a solid. But timing is everything, and the universe hates a cover-up. Right at the exact same time, Rocco is driving this car down the highway. Jordan and Curtis get into a massive, brutal accident, a crash. And guess what? The traffic cams ping Lulu's car in the exact vicinity at the exact time of the crash. This is the ultimate wrong place, wrong time scenario. But from an investigative standpoint, it's a slam dunk for the cops. They pull the footage. They see a car fleeing the general area of a major collision. They zoom in on the driver and it's a kid. So now the police are knocking on the door. They aren't looking for a shooter. They are looking for a hit and run driver. They pull Rocco in. And this right here is where the educational part of this whole mess comes into play. We need to talk about juvenile interrogations in the US justice system because it is completely broken, and this storyline shows exactly why when a kid gets pulled into an interrogation room, their brain is not fully developed. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for logic, long-term planning, and understanding consequences, isn't fully cooked until you're like 25. Rocco is a teenager. He's sitting in this cold room. The cops are coming at him hard. We know you were driving, Rocco. We have the tapes. You caused the accident that hurt Jordan and Curtis. You fled the scene. Now the police are allowed to lie to you. That's a real thing. The Supreme Court said it's fine for cops to use deceptive tactics during interrogations. Look up Fraser versus Cupp. They can tell you they have your fingerprints when they don't. They can tell you somebody saw you do it. So they are probably putting massive pressure on this kid, trying to get him to cop to the hit and run. Rocco is terrified. He's guilty of something, but not the hit and run. This is a classic psychological trap. When you are guilty of crime A, shooting Cullum, but the cops are accusing you of crime B, the crash, you panic. Your brain goes into overdrive trying to prove your innocence for crime B, and you completely forget to protect yourself from crime A. Lulu is probably outside losing her mind, but it's too late. The kid is in the box. I didn't hit them. Rocco is crying. His hand is throbbing. He's scared. I didn't cause the crash. I was just driving because my mum was too tired. The cops are like, why were you driving on that highway at that time? Where were you coming from, Rocco? And he snaps. He just word vomits. He's so desperate to prove he isn't a hit and run driver that he blurts out the truth. I was coming from the hospital. Isaiah was fixing my hand. Why was your hand hurt, Rocco? And boom, the house of cards collapses. Because he's a kid, because he's scared, because he thinks telling the truth about the hand will clear him of the car crash. He confesses to the shooting. I shot Cullum. My hand was infected. We were hiding it. I didn't hit Jordan and Curtis. Bro, he literally exonerated himself from a traffic accident and talked himself into an attempted murder charge. It is so painfully realistic though. This happens in real life all the time. Suspects go into an interview without a lawyer. Never talk to the cops without a lawyer. You'll seriously invoke your Fifth Amendment rights, and they think they are smart enough to talk their way out of a suspicion. But they end up handing the police the exact puzzle pieces they need for a completely different crime. Rocco was trying to clear his name. He was trying to say, look, I have an alibi. My alibi is that I was committing a totally different, much worse crime. It's absurd. It's tragic. So now let's look at the fallout. Rocco is cleared of the hit and run. He didn't hit Jordan and Curtis. It was just a crazy coincidence that he was driving past the traffic cam when they crashed. But he just admitted on tape to detectives that he shot Cullum, and he admitted to driving underage. So he gets slapped with the underage driving charge, which honestly is a slap on the wrist compared to what's coming. Maybe some community service, juvenile probation, whatever. But the shooting, he is going down for the shooting. And Lulu is going to catch charges too. Accessory after the fact, child endangerment, obstruction of justice. She took a kid with a gunshot-related injury to a doctor in secret to avoid police detection. She tried to cover up a felony. Like, she really thought she ate with that plan. She thought she was being a good mum protecting her cub, but she actually destroyed him. If she had just gotten him a lawyer on day one, if she had just taken him to the station and said, my son was involved in an incident, here is our attorney, they could have controlled the narrative, they could have claimed self-defense, they could have worked out a plea. Instead, they let the wound fester, both literally and metaphorically. The infection in his hand is a perfect symbol for the secret they were keeping. You try to hide it, you try to ignore it, you put a little band-aid on it, but underneath, it is rotting. It is spreading. And eventually, it poisons the whole body. Rocco's infected hand forced them into the light. It forced them onto that highway. It forced him behind the wheel, and it forced him into that interrogation room. The irony is just chef's kiss, but also devastating. He gets off for the thing everyone thought he did and gets locked up for the thing nobody knew he did. And Isaiah? Poor Isaiah is probably going to get his medical license reviewed by the board because now the cops know he treated a suspect off the books. Did he document it? Did he report it? If he didn't, he's catching an aiding and abetting charge, or at the very least, a massive ethics violation, all because Lulu couldn't face the music. This whole storyline is a masterclass in how one bad decision snowballs. Shooting Cullum was the inciting incident, but the cover-up is always what gets you. Nixon learnt it, and now Rocco and Lulu are learning it. I just keep thinking about the kid sitting in that room, feeling like he finally got the truth out, feeling that brief moment of relief like, okay, they believe me, I didn't cause the car crash, only for the detective to slowly close the file, lean forward and say, okay, so tell us more about Cullum. The absolute sinking feeling in his stomach, realizing he just traded a misdemeanor traffic felony for a violent felony. It's messy. It's so messy. But it is incredibly compelling television because human error is the best driver of drama. We don't want to watch smart people make good choices. We want to watch desperate people make catastrophic choices. And Lulu letting her underage, traumatized, feverish son drive a car past a traffic camera on the worst night possible, that is a catastrophic choice. Man. They're going to need the best lawyer in Port Charles. Diane better be warming up her vocal cords because this case is a nightmare. But realistically, there's no spinning a taped confession. The boy is cooked. And honestly, he probably needs to be off the streets anyway if he's running around shooting people. Just saying. But the way he got caught, purely accidental, pure bad luck mixed with terrible decision making. Anyway, that's where we are at. The boy tried to dodge a car crash and walk straight into a prison sentence. You can't make this stuff up. Well, I mean, the writers did, but you know what I mean. It's wild. Just wild.